you could be the best developer, but a lot of these things, it's the mental load of to build something that anyone would even be able to like log into, click through, use, get data from. You're talking weeks, before something, even if you're the best, right? Now you can kind of get that initial starting point so fast. And so the question became, is vibe coding like for real? Can we put it to the test? And so the thought from the vibe coding competition was like, why don't we see if people want to really put their money where their mouth is?
Yeah.
And come and try to compete to be the best.
Welcome back to Innovate or Evaporate, where we explore the relentless pace of change and the innovators who drive it. I'm your host, Toph Day, and today we have Sean Hise, the CEO and founder of Crafted, an AI-powered product studio focused on building next-generation mobile and cloud-based applications. For founders focused on building next-gen applications and companies that need to disrupt themselves to stay ahead of the competition, Crafted is the place to go. Sean, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot for having me, Toph.
So I'm fired up. We're going to get this into in a little bit. We're not going to go here quite yet.
Okay.
But you're actually a part of the disruption at the 2028 Olympics. Come to the U.S. and L.A. That I'm super fired up to learn a little bit more at. It's a little teaser.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. We can tease that out.
A little teaser for later. So let's hit some foundational work here real quick. So in 2017, you merged two digital marketing firms to establish Crafted.
Correct.
Talk to us about how that came about, why you did that. What in 2017, so that's 8 years ago.
Yep. I was actually 7 years into founding my company, which I spent mostly the first 3 years just on my own grinding after kind of quitting the corporate traveling consulting job.
Oh, just hang on. Let's do a real quick segue on that. Where were you before then?
PricewaterhouseCoopers.
PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Yep.
And you were running what?
I was
corporate
running
travel.
Yeah, I was traveling all the time. I was in healthcare payer stuff. It was not really my bag. I was always building and coding in college, and I taught myself how. And I picked up some clients at that point. And I was still kind of servicing them on the, and it was just one of those things where I always wanted to build stuff. So
you're in the machine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's touch on real quick then. So did you start a company? Did you go solopreneur?
I started a company called Exacta in 2010.
Okay.
And that lasted for 7 years. I think at the end of 2016, I had 6 employees. So it was a small company. We were in the Stutz building.
Yep.
And I was just walking down the hall every day, and there was all kinds of little companies there.
Yeah.
Right. Some of them were tech.
Yep.
So we had there was a company down the hall called Swellfire. And that was the Wise brothers, Jacob and Job Wise, who are now my partners. And they were building a lot of WordPress sites and doing a lot of corporate website builds. And I was working on a deal that was more in the software space. And I was needing to scale up my team because the deals that I was working required, maybe 2 or 3 FTs on a single project. And so I brought them in, taught them how to build like enterprise front-end apps with JavaScript, things like that. Things that was really growing that whole industry.
Yep.
That's where the foundation of a lot of the SaaS products that we saw in that era were built on. And we kind of dated each other for a year. And then at the very beginning of 2017, we cut it, wind everything down, and started a new company.
That's awesome. So did you have a client or customer or two lined up before you jumped off that cliff? Or describe the feeling when you're like, you know what, I'm jumping out of this comfort blanket, this warm electric blanket, and I'm going to go cold turkey.
I think it was one of the biggest risks I've ever taken. I think we had 10 employees when we started. I think we put $50,000 in the bank, and of the money that we had left over from the other company, and we're just like, let's see if we can make a couple payrolls, and it never stopped.
That's awesome. I love it. Just white knuckling it.
Yeah,
let's roll.
I mean, we never raised any money. Yeah, we had clients. They all stayed. We were one of those companies that we retain our clients and grow from there. So it made sense for us to do that.
That's from a go-to-market strategy. Like, I think a lot of times founders underestimate the power of whatever project you're doing for that customer. If you do a great job, can you also do this? And it just grows and grows. And then they're having drinks with their buddy that works at another company, and they're like, yeah, I'm working with this group Crafted, and they've done a great job with me. And all of a sudden it just goes.
Yeah, I think that came from working in Big Four consulting. Yeah. They always ingrained in us, build relationships with your clients. Your clients are your business. And it was never a transaction. So I never thought about anything we did as a project. It was always a relationship. And as long as you maintain those relationships, you can grow your business because they'll keep coming back.
Yeah, 1,000%.
It's a basic business thing, but I don't know if that's lost on some people, but you got to do it.
So that leads straight into your motto, right? Build faster, scale smarter.
Yeah. So I think that to kind of go back on some of the things that I've learned over the years, especially when it comes to like the tech scene in Indy, is I feel like there's a couple things that work to our advantage. One is in our specific space, there was a lot of kind of .NET shops, very like specific tech stacks. And in 2015, the tech stack started changing. It was more of decoupled API, React, front end stuff, really cool, nuanced stuff. And that was all coming out of Silicon Valley. So Facebook, Google, they were releasing these new libraries to build applications, and we embraced that early on. And a lot of the companies, I think, that we worked with were more marketing focused companies, whereas we could come with a very like specific tech focused mindset, technology, like best practices mindset. So was always able to kind of get in and have that as our competitive advantage. Is like, we know this stuff. We know how to build. We know the engineering side of things, mixed with the fact that we come from that like informatics UI background where we know how to make the user experience really good. So it's something to where we've always focused on the tech, building best of breed, latest and greatest kind of technology.
How did you determine, that brings up a thought in my mind of like bleeding edge versus cutting edge, right? So you've always stayed in front of the modern technology wave. Is there a couple of things that come to mind in these various transitions over the last, let's say 15 years as things have changed and modernized like you just described? How do you determine when you're going to embrace, a new piece of technology that may not be totally proven out yet? There's maybe a couple initial success stories, but you're going to put that in the tech stack.
That's a great question. I think that it comes down to the community of people that are around it. How many people have put things in production. And that's why we looked to, I hate to say it, but we looked at Facebook because they built technologies that they were using for their internal and external facing tools. I mean, if they can figure it out, if they're using it for one of the most scalable products that's ever been built, like why wouldn't we be able to do that?
Yeah.
But there's a lot too, even especially now with AI, like people are almost inhibited in some ways by going to the super bleeding edge because guess what? AI doesn't know anything about that stuff yet. Yeah, and so you can go and try to build something with some of these super new technologies, has no idea what you're talking about. Now that gap gets closed a lot quicker than it used to. But when you're thinking about, tech stacks and stuff, you definitely need to think about, are other people using this in production? Have they scaled it? And do you even, to what level do you need to think about that? Because a lot of startups don't necessarily, they might be thinking about scaling too early. Like their stuff could be fine up to like tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of users before they need to think about some of this stuff. So you might want to, keep it simple, for example. So.
Yeah, I love that. In previous companies I've had, right, at various points of journeys, a tendency to overbuild too early before you really have product market fit, and you're not talking to the customer enough that you're joining in with their workflow, right, and how they really want to use it. And so there's a tendency to overbuild without really knowing what you're doing. And also sometimes, maybe this is starting to go away, but a lot of engineers like to build stuff from scratch when now these things are starting to sit on the shelf and you can pull them in and plug them in.
Yeah, that's a big mistake I think that people make is letting, you can still have a really good engineer that has no idea how to make the right decisions about architecture.
Right.
It depends on what and you have to find that right person because some people might just want to focus on stuff that makes them happy, which solving really hard problems makes engineers happy.
Yes.
Right. And so is that really a company focused trait, company success focused trait? It isn't always. And if there's this huge disconnect between product and leadership and engineering, sometimes stuff like that happens. And you end up with coming down, to the basement and figuring out, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And
how do we end up over here?
Yeah. And so for me, I feel like that's another piece that I've had some advantage is I'm an engineer. So I can kind of see stuff. I can go into a company and see it right away.
You've got your client list is awesome. USA Football, MISO, Motion. Is there a project or two that kind of stick out to you? We teased a little bit of one you might pick, but any any cool stories about transformation that you've worked on that you can share?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think obviously I'd love to share about USA. Just in 2019, a client of mine that had moved on to their company, became their CIO, brought us in kind of in an emergency where they needed to rebuild their core digital services. And all of them were on somewhat of a legacy tech stack, but it was more of an architectural vision and a user experience vision. And we, it was one of those things where we rolled up our sleeves, worked 7 days a week for like 4 months and rebuilt their entire platform that serves hundreds of thousands of users. Coach certifies as 200,000 coaches a year, things like that. And I've loved working on that company because they build everything in-house. Their stack is, all backends all hosted in the modern cloud. They really focus. They have a really good tech team, and that's grown over the years. And obviously now their entire mission is changing because flag football is going to the Olympics in 2028.
Yep.
And so we have to really pivot the company from a governing body to a national governing body, from a perspective of there's a lot of stuff if you're actually going to put an Olympic team in place.
You think you and I could make the flag football team for the U.S.? Should we try out for that?
I'm sure I couldn't, but one of the things that's happening is a lot of the NFL players want to play. But what's kind of lost from a flag football perspective, and not to veer too much on the sports stuff, but women's flag football is going to be huge.
Yes.
So
I've actually been watching a little bit of that. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be a lot like there's going to be stars that come out of that are really good. It's really the it's the best way for females to get involved in football right now. I'm in some perspectives, and the sport is growing, and the other thing about it is it's more international.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some really good teams, like the Mexican team's really good. There's some teams in South America, Japan. Like there's some teams that it's going to be more competitive. On the men's side, it's like, is Justin Jefferson going to be catching pass? They might be, but they're also not really, really experienced flag football players.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see. It's a totally different sport because you have to play both ways, for example. So maybe Travis Hunter, but is Josh Allen going to get back and defend somebody in the defensive backfield? I'm not sure. So.
That's awesome. How about MISO Motion? Any projects there you want to highlight?
I think, there's only so much I can share on MISO, the highly regulated entity, but that's a company that has a lot of technology that manages our entire energy grid.
Yep.
And they're going through a process of trying to figure out how to modernize their technology. They brought in a really good CIO from Republic Airways, who's taking the helm, really good guy. And they've got a whole host of problems. And I think that's where you look at it and you go, how can you modernize, use new tooling in a highly regulated industry where you cannot leak any data, so it's a testament to, where we can come into a company that's got a lot of really like in-house technical and security requirements, and we can still do what we do.
Yep.
So that's been really interesting and fun. And then Motion is a company that is funded by Paragraph Ventures, and they're really tackling like the NIL inside the collegiate athletics management space.
Yep.
And I've actually been working on that product. I think it's gone through 2 different companies that have worked and kind of owned and bought this product, and so that's been really fun.
That's pretty impressive. I mean, so you are working on projects anywhere from flag football, right? That's transforming the Olympics, to national security, right?
Yeah.
Our electric grid.
Yeah.
And all in between. So, all right. So let's jump into then, how in the heck do you know where to start? And we're going to come to vibe coding in here in just a little bit.
Sure.
But I think let's start with, so we have almost 400 portfolio companies, and they're in. We kind of break it down to these massive sectors, like software, hard tech, life science, consumer, like CPG. But then there's all these, sectors underneath that, right? Dozens of sectors that we invest in. So we see a lot of stuff across the grid. It seems like, so we all know the world's accelerating faster than ever. Today's the slowest rate of change we're ever going to experience, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow's going to be faster. And so all these new tools have come out, and there's all this hype, and it's kind of like Facebook when you see a picture of a family like on a beach, like smiling. It's like, people are like, I wish I had that life.
Right.
Well, it's actually 1 second, and that family's got all kinds of things they're working through. So people put this stuff on LinkedIn about how they're making, $50 million, from home in 30 days. And I think a lot of folks, a lot of founders, and leaders within these companies, I think if they're honest with themselves and if we're honest and vulnerable with each other, like they feel less than. They're fearful. They're paralyzed. What do I do? Where do I start? And so I want to kind of go through some of these various technologies and platforms. They're like, let's just like simplify it all. And so I'm going to throw out a bunch of words,
Sure.
and then we'll just kind of start to slice through this.
Sure.
So, so one thing is like starting simple and starting with whatever tech stack you already have. So if you're a Google shop or a Microsoft shop or, whatever you're using in the cloud for, your database or whatever, your back end. So, Google and Microsoft and then let's go to some of these new tools like Cursor and Lovable and Claude, ChatGPT, OpenAI. So if we were going to bucket these, and I know some of the stuff morphs into different pieces.
Sure. Hit me.
But if we were going to morph these, like if I'm a Google shop, then like what are these different tools used for? If I was going to try to bifurcate those in my mind to get started, what should I do if I haven't done anything yet, which a ton of people haven't?
Well, I think if you're working on an existing code base or you're building a new product, it's kind of a different mindset, because let's say you're building a completely new product. And you haven't.
So I'm just starting a business.
You're just starting a business. You should have a good idea on your own organically as a human what you're trying to do, right? And you should also probably have conversations with ChatGPT, the internet, and actually doing research, right? You need information to back up what you're doing.
Right.
When you actually start building technology, I'm going to say this from the perspective of an experienced software professional, because and I'll also try to say it from the other side too. If I'm an experienced product person or software professional, I'm taking all that research, all that information as an input to the prompt and conversation I'm probably going to have with the large language model. So I'm going to talk to my choice of stack when I do that is ChatGPT. So when I talk about planning how the product's going to get built, that conversation exists in that space. So we talk about everything from technical requirements and gathering those to the design of the database, for example, to the project plan and how things would get organized. I take all of that stuff up, I package it up, and that's what I deliver to the actual tool that starts building the product. For me, that's Cursor. So you take all...
Pause real quick?
Yeah.
So for creative, planning, brainstorming, recommending, etc., you work inside of ChatGPT. I
work inside of ChatGPT. And it's, part of that is because I've been a user on that platform for so long. It's just brand loyalty, and it knows me really well.
Yeah.
The history and context that I have provides a lot to that, right?
Okay.
A lot of people, like some of my clients, and a lot of people I've talked to do the same thing, but they use Claude Desktop, for example.
Okay.
So very similar situation. You're going to have to, it's good to kind of put those in their buckets, right? Because if you start coding, you're just going to rip and it's going to go, right? And it's hard to, there's a point at which you should start coding and you should start building, right? So I take all that stuff and then I go into Cursor and I start executing that project plan, right?
Is the free product good enough, ChatGPT, or do I need to spend the $20 or more?
I haven't been on the free for 2 years, so I wouldn't know. Yeah,
okay.
I pay.
So pay a little bit of money.
The amount of money that I and my company pays for these tools right now is dumb. And we try to review it once a month and start canceling the stuff we aren't using.
Yeah.
We went on a huge AI image generation binge for like 3 months and tested all of them out, right?
Right.
It's like, and then you end up, finding what works.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of that's our stack,
okay.
right? And we use, to the point earlier, try to use a stack that's AI friendly. Because people are talking about this now. I talked about it on our podcast 3 or 4 months ago, is the concept of that AI indexability, AI SEO, where it's not about anything besides making sure that your content is being indexed by AI bots, which is different than Google. And Google's Cloudflare right now has a product that kind of lets you light up your site to say, I do or I don't want to be indexed by AI.
Right.
So all these companies that have really good documentation, that gets sucked into AI, makes it easier to build, right? So building your stack around stuff that something like Cursor is going to respond to. Now, if I'm a non-technical founder, and I'll use an example. I just talked to a venture studio out of Iowa, and they are looking to take their product to the next level. They do, it's kind of an interesting concept. They build one company per year. It's a very small studio. And their process would be to do a lot of research, and they would come up with their product, and they would come up with, if they would come up with like a go, no go, we should build this. Well, after they got the go, no go, they would work on the brand. They would work on the design of the product, the technical requirements, and then they would hire an in-house developer to come, and that would be their tech founder, and they would build it. They decided with their company this year to cut all that out and go straight from their research into Lovable.
Mm-hmm.
And that was their starting point. Lovable is great because it has a very specific reusable tech stack that it kind of has under the covers. It knows it's talking to non-coders for the most part. So you're not editing code. You're just having conversation, and it's doing its best to make all those iterations. And instead of coming up with like a Figma file, which is the company just went public, by the way.
Yep.
I don't know if you got in at $33. I don't think anyone did.
Yep. I did
except
not.
Except for
I didn't get that phone
the
call.
founders of the iBanks. But I think it's sitting at $80 right now. It was at $120. Anyways, that's where you go. That's the Adobe of today. That's the Adobe Photoshop, the XD. That's the platform everybody ships their designs with. And they said, we're not doing any of that. They just built their prototype in Lovable, and then they just started showing it around. And they were like, they showed it around to people that were potentially in the market as customers. And they showed it to people like me. They're like, is this something that you could work with? And it got two things. It got their idea out there,
mm-hmm.
right? But it also got them to be able to ask the question, is this code actually something that could be used in scale?
Right.
And that's kind of where I think that's where the questionable, that's where the questions start to arise. In that process is like, how much can you redo? What's the right approach? When should I stop? Should I integrate with the back end, or should it just be kind of a click through? But it does allow them to validate their idea faster. So,
do you think maybe it's changes from platform to platform, but do you think there's kind of I'm not sure if it's a good question or not, but like with those tools today, Lovable, Cursor, who else do we put in that bucket?
Replit.
Yeah. Those are, in general, in theory, depending on the product and complexity, et cetera, thousands, tens of thousands users, hundreds of thousands.
Oh, it completely depends.
Yeah.
Now, Lovable, like for example, just started partnering with Supabase, so they'll start building a full stack app for you like from the get. And Supabase is just really an abstraction on top of AWS RDS platform, which is their scalable database platform.
Okay.
So, a lot of the scalability stuff, it doesn't necessarily, it's kind of somewhat in the architecture, but it's also in some of the code decisions. So that's where you see a lot of the horror stories. There's the stories that you said, there's like, I made $50 million in 2 months, but there's also I leaked all my API keys and I owe AWS $100,000 because I went viral after this coding. Like there's these massive hackathons they're doing online. And the winner, like for example, got nailed afterwards, and he was on the hook for all the costs. And there's just there's horror stories out there. So it's like, I think my advice would be, if you're a non-technical founder, don't take your Lovable prototype and just ship it out there and think you're done. And actually, that's a good startup opportunity right now, and you're seeing it. There's literally post-vibe coded MVP products that they're like, scan it for security, scan it for issues. Like people are building those products right now. And I think that even Erica from your team is hooking me up with a company out of the Purdue area that's doing something in that space. I forget what the name of it is, but that's a whole opportunity. Because yes, there's a kind of a big transformation in the software. And we're talking mostly about software here.
Right.
Like that's one thing. Because I know you guys have a lot of companies that are hard tech, whatever.
Yeah.
There's people are vibe coding CAD drawings, by the way. So it doesn't just limit yourself to software.
That's so exciting and yet scary.
Yeah. I know. Think about it.
You know what that makes me think about is when I graduated from college, I was initially in commercial construction. We built hospitals and stuff, really complex projects. And we always knew the drawings were wrong. for sure, right? The drawings are always wrong. And so you have to kind of build it in your head and sketch stuff out. Like ICUs in hospitals were always wrong. You'd have med gas that's sticking below the ceiling, for example, and had to redesign it. But when I came into the industry, it was right when CAD was starting to become a thing. And so then you had all of these, young college grads that were, let's say
CAD.
Yeah. 30 years or younger. And so they're like, well, this thing's just magic and I'm just going to use this CAD and it's perfect. And we stick it out there and things just went berserk. I mean, beams were 5 feet too short and all kinds of crazy stuff. But then it caught up quickly. I almost feel like we're in, like, that's a kind of a parallel to where we are now.
It is definitely. I think that if someone's giving you the advice that software development and learning, engineering, or I was hanging out with a bunch of Rose Holman guys this weekend. And they were talking, I was like asking them, because I've never met that many engineers. And I wanted to know like what they do.
Right.
And I was like, I couldn't be more convinced that coming out of that learning fundamental skills is just as important as it always was.
Yeah. Like
learning the fundamentals of software engineering, learning business, SaaS, learning marketing, learning, engineering, mechanical, those skills are all super important because you're not going to be able to use those advanced tools. It's like those are for the adults.
Yeah.
Right. Those are in the hands of someone that doesn't know what they're doing. It's risky. And so, I mean, I don't know if you saw Apple came out with this research paper that kind of went viral that people are starting to read it about AI. And what they found was that AI is really, really, really good at solving existing problems.
Mm-hmm.
And they went through the fundamentals of neural net and how problems get solved, like next word, like the whole kind of fundamental process that AI goes through. And it unlocked something for me, which was like, yeah, that makes sense. AI is going to be really good at kind of being a buddy and helping you work through things. But if you chunk things up into small, achievable problems, that's great. But when they started throwing in their study, when they started throwing problems that were really hard to solve or new problems, it wasn't able to actually reason through those solutions because the patterns didn't exist.
Right.
AI is not necessarily creating those new patterns. It's just finding existing ones. And I'm probably oversimplifying that, and it could change tomorrow, like with GPT-5 or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's a perspective from a really, really, really smart company that doesn't usually jump into the newest stuff. And I think that's kind of maybe a good way of thinking about it. If you're maybe in college right now, or you're a company and you're trying to do certain things, or you're trying to figure out how you use AI, like think of it as that companion, like Spock. Like Spock was really, really dry, right? But he gave you the info, right? Shatner was the guy coming up with the strategy and the solution. You know what I mean? It's not a magic.
It's not a magic wand.
It's not a magic wand.
Just like you mentioned, like leveraging AI for stuff that exists to solve. I think it seems like there's a lot of folks that we call it data hygiene. And so like structuring getting your data ready. So like the moat of like, is there any technology moat anymore? I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah. We were talking about that at the AI Summit a couple months ago.
And so distribution and data like are two places where you can have a moat. And it seems like a lot of folks, like their data may not be structured properly. It's sitting in text boxes or whatever it might be. And so they want to your point earlier, like push a magical AI button and they have garbage in, garbage out. And so you get these false positives of, with whatever you're trying to work on. And so talk about the importance of getting your data structured.
Yeah, I would say that if you don't have the ability, so if you're trying to do AI on your own data and you're trying to train models and say, I don't just want to ask a question into ChatGPT because of security problems or it doesn't know about our stuff. So we've got to get our stuff in there. You need to do a quick assessment, gut check with probably all your IT and business leadership and be like, could we even do something like this? Because I guarantee there's tons of Fortune 500 companies right now that are spending millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars with consulting companies that are getting absolutely nothing out of it.
Amen. That just keeps repeating itself, it seems like.
Oh yeah. It's a big waste of money.
Yeah.
And the real value in AI right now is the general knowledge base. It's the general stuff. It's utilizing the big, large language models. And just take it seriously. I myself am not an expert at like RAG or implementing big AI into huge companies that have a data pipeline. But all these people, I've talked to people all the time, and they're all trying to solve that problem.
Yeah.
And it comes down to good business fundamentals, good IT practices, good data practices to begin with. There's a lot of companies that could totally do it. I think that the more regulated you get, the more siloed you get. Companies that have grown from mergers and acquisitions, companies that have a lot of legacy. I mean, I worked on companies that were maintaining mainframes in 2006 to 2008, right? Still, right? You think, I mean, so it's not,
awesome.
It's not, I know, it's not a magic wand in that situation either.
Yeah.
It's but I think that some people mix the problems together. Like I want to accelerate my process. I want to synthesize data quicker. I want to be able to code faster, versus like taking a bunch of corporate proprietary information and making some sort of magic box out of it. That's a big lift for companies. And I think that if you're going to partake in that endeavor, that's something you got to take super seriously. You got to invest a lot of time up front to make sure that you're doing it right. And I wouldn't rely on some vendor selling you some quick fix solution.
Right. Yeah. Are there any tools we haven't talked about yet at a high level that you'd want to highlight?
So I'll tease the vibe coding competition. Yeah. I was very surprised to see that a lot of people that applied are using Claude Code. So Claude is the product from Anthropic, which is kind of the competitor to ChatGPT, but they've really embraced coding, and it's a terminal-based app. But the thing that it's doing that I think is insane to me is they're introducing the concept of sub-agents and parallel agents. So depending on your compute and your what you've got going on in either your computer, just in general, you can basically give a project plan, and it's not just one conversation. It's 20 different conversations, and they're all working together. You basically hire 20 developers at once, and they're all working on their own problem, and they all are contributing to the main code base. And it's like the Matrix, dude. It's crazy. And I'm seeing it.
Is that what people mean by swarm agents, or is that different?
I think so. Yeah. Basically, I don't know the exact verbiage, but basically, instead of just having one conversation going that's contributing back to the code base, you're having a bunch at once, and they're talking to each other.
I just read something, I can't remember what it was, just in the last 24, 48 hours. I read too much, I think. And it was talking about some of these new companies come on the market that are just hitting hockey sticks out of the gate, growing revenue like crazy. And they mentioned one company hired 50 interns to build 10,000 different agents, social platform, and applied like social agents to those, so that like for that widget, you basically couldn't be on social media without seeing this thing just time and 10,000, like in a matter of weeks.
Yeah. I mean, the content creation game is, you could create, like, if I was to create a content engine, I would go to N8N, which is an awesome automation tool. I would build a whole workflow with ChatGPT in the middle, and you could spawn a bajillion of these things. And they could, every single morning you wake up and you've got, 30 blog posts, 20 social posts, and they're all pretty good.
Right.
You might have a human in the loop. That's one of the cool things that I'm seeing in some of these workflow tools. Like, one of the options is human in the loop. So like literally you have boom, 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 human in the loop.
Take a peek.
Then it goes back to the automation and goes through it again. And I'm like, oh, that's cool.
So if it needs a little tweaking and redirection, and then let it fly.
Yeah, and people are building like composable tools that require very little code to do some of those things. Once again, the people that are involving the engineers that do know how to code, those, are obviously can get a little bit more sophisticated.
Yeah.
Because I think there's always this like question of like, can we just get rid of all the coders? You know what I mean? It's not happening. Yeah.
So, well, you touched on the vibe coding competition a few months ago. We got together in the office, and you were getting ready to go through a slide deck, I think, on bringing maybe at the time the world's first vibe coding competition to be a part of Rally. And I think you got halfway through the first slide, and we're like, let's go, let's do this, right? So, what is vibe coding? And then let's go into the competition a little bit and see where we are. So,
vibe coding is a little bit of a unfortunate and very fortunate term. It was coined by, I really don't want to butcher his name, but Andrei Karpathy. He was a former Tesla software engineer, and he's had this long tweet And it was basically like, there's this new concept of vibe coding. This was early 2025, where you kind of take your hands off the wheel and let it rip. And that really like went viral and stuck with a lot of people because, there's a lot of that stuff was new, very new. Even though you could kind of talk to ChatGPT and get some code and copy and paste it. Cursor was the first time where you had a really good user experience of having a conversation and just going and boom, 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 like just going. And even you could click agent mode for the first time and it would just go and then really go. And so people were seeing that, and it just spawned it's still going. Months and months and months of people trying to do something that they otherwise wouldn't have even tried to do, right? Because building a new software product, no matter how good you are, takes time, right? You could be the best developer, but a lot of these things, it's the mental load of to build something that anyone would even be able to like log into, click through, use, get data from. You're talking weeks, before something, even if you're the best, right? Now you can kind of get that initial starting point so fast. And so the question became, is vibe coding like for real? Can we put it to the test, right? And so the thought from the vibe coding competition was like, why don't we see if people want to really put their money where their mouth is?
Yeah.
And come and try to compete to be the best. Because my perspective, I always wanted to be the best. Like I wanted to be the best developer. People on my team, I said, well, you do want to be the best. And unfortunately, I won't be competing. I want to, but I want to kind of foster that, like that mentality. And what we've seen is that the real growth of this competition has come from the people that have applied to be a part of it. And what we're seeing is not what you see on Reddit and social media necessarily of some people that are laggards or hating, right? You're seeing people that are doing this in their jobs.
Yep.
You're seeing people that are you look at their resumes, where they've worked, their LinkedIn profiles, and these people know what they're doing. They're applying. Seasoned software professionals that don't need to vibe code they totally get it. It's just and that's just kind of where I see, like, when I know a really good engineer, it's like they're the type of people that just always keep learning.
Right.
They never stop learning.
Never over.
They never stop. And anything that's going to make them better, faster, smarter, they do. And guess what? That is proving to be true. Now, can they do it in 18 hours?
Gonna find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. So
your idea, it might still be the world's first. There's
online hackathons. But like from the way that we're doing it, I think it's pretty unique. Yeah.
Yep. So Rally Innovation. Rally, and the website's rallyinnovation.com. Is our application still open?
Yeah, they're still open. We're almost full in terms of, there's been a lot of applicants, but we're being very, very tough on the applications because we want to make sure we have a great product.
Yeah.
And so not everybody's getting in, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
We only have so much space. But we're really looking for, what we're really looking for now is to round out the teams. We really want a design-focused team. We want a non-coding design-focused team.
Yes.
And we want a team. I'm trying to get women in tech. I want an all-woman team that's going to come in and do something really cool, and just do something awesome. We're looking for a well-rounded group of teams, whether that's experience level. We want a team of college kids. I think we've got a lot of really seasoned pros, and you would expect that, right?
Yep.
Because we got a team that's like a former engineer of SEP. His colleague, she's also a former SEP, and then another guy who's at a startup. They're really a team. We've got a team from Stellar. We got I don't know if you guys know Brandon Corbin.
Yes.
He's in it. He's leading a bunch of Rose Holman kids. But we were trying to round it out with like some, because I think there could be a dark horse team that's like maybe even non-coder team.
Right. That'd be amazing.
That uses Lovable or Replit.
Yeah.
And lets it rip. And maybe he puts on a little brand, that makes it look good, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they might present better to the judges. So we're almost there.
So we have the people coming in from all over the country. How many total teams are you targeting?
we're going to have 10.
10 teams. So targeting 10 teams. And then, so they're going to come in, they get, basically there's going to be some rules, right? Rules of the game.
So the rules of the vibe coding competition are pretty simple. So there's 4 themes that have been published on the website.
Okay.
In 48 hours before the competition, each of those themes will have a very detailed research back project brief.
Okay.
It's not going to say this is what you need to build, but it's going to say this is the problem that you need to solve.
Right.
So they'll have 48 hours to ideate and think about those 4 problems. But when they show up at the competition, they're going to draw their actual theme out of a hat. So they won't know exactly what they're building.
I love that.
So they'll have a 25, if they gambled and went all in on one idea,
right.
They wouldn't be able to code it, but they'd be able to think about it. They'd have a 25% chance of being right. So there's only so much time you can invest in 48 hours.
Yeah.
But they will be allowed to come with some prompts, come with some ideas, right? Because we'll give them enough time so they have something to build. I think all teams should have an idea of what they're going to build. And then right when the clock's ticking, they've got to put their first commit into the repo, and I'll be monitoring it, and we'll be watching them the whole time and live streaming it.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is live stream too, right?
Yeah.
So live stream for 18 hours. This is going to be sick. So nobody's going to be sleeping all night long. I mean, there's a couple naps, have some pizza.
Yeah.
Lord knows what else. I'm sure Red Bull and Monster, or who knows what else people will be drinking. This is going to be fascinating.
Yeah, and then at 7 a.m., they'll have to turn it in. I think at 8 a.m., around 8 a.m., I might be a little bit off on the timing. There will be up on the stage at Rally, the 3 finalists presenting their solution, and then the 3 judges will pick the winner. And they'll get 10 grand.
So awesome. I love it. This is so exciting. So how far along do you think that, I guess let's take vibe coding into the future a little bit. Like, so what do you, maybe, and the true answer is nobody knows. But like, as we think about the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months, does anything pop out in your mind that is not quite possible today, but you think we're like right on the edge of a new tool emerging that will allow for X? What do you think is on the near-term horizon?
You know, I think one of the things that a lot of these vibe coding companies are struggling with right now is cost. Mm-hmm. So there's cost creep big time. They're throttling their users. You know, they came in, like Cursor came in at a $20 a month price point, right? But then they were like, we're probably spending, $200 a customer.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And they're just trying to grow their base, right? So the concept of becoming profitable as one of these companies is very interesting. I think some of the companies have been a lot better at that. So managing the compute power, and that's what you're seeing. And I think it's worth touching on, because that's what you're seeing throughout the country right now. Is I saw this thing where real estate guys are going out and they're building data centers. Mm-hmm. And then the engineer, the people that actually know how to build data centers are like, okay, we got this new spot for you. We're building it out. It's big, huge space, everything. And like, all right, where's the water coming from?
Right.
Where's the power? How many megawatts are you pulling in?
Yep.
Right. Because the next generation is we're just consuming an insane amount of power.
Yep.
And for these companies to be able, we're almost in this like honeymoon zone where it's like, they're either going to have to figure that out, because crises precipitate change, right? The crisis is a power crisis.
Yep.
Right. And it's a compute crisis. So, really the innovation needed to support what they're doing is literally just raw power.
So I think it's interesting you brought that up. I think it was a year, maybe 2 years ago, we were asked to write a chapter, and Sagamore Institute put out a kind of a Workforce 2040 book, and we wrote chapter 7 in that book. And one of the things that I put in there was nuclear fusion, not fission, but fusion. And with some of the research and the IP and innovation that's happened at some of the universities, there's a couple of universities that some of the research they're doing, it looks like the idea of nuclear fusion is...
I think Sam Altman's heavily invested in a fusion company.
On the doorstep. And whoever figures that out, not that there won't be followers, right? But if we can get that, right, where we got literally, refrigerator-sized nuclear fusion to help power this stuff, that's going to be a massive game changer.
Yeah, I think I look at it at both sides too. I think like we're, where's your mindset? Is it on, we need more power, we need more compute, or how can I do more with less? I think there's innovation to be had on both sides.
And that's going to happen at some point too, right? Yeah. And when does that happen?
Yeah. I think you look at where Apple's, I think, has missed the boat is they're shipping us all these M4, M5 devices with onboard compute that's insane. Like I think a lot of this computing power can be distributed to us instead of centrally in data centers. It's right there, but it's not being leveraged by the best device maker in the world right now.
So what if we found ourselves in 5 years where all of a sudden there's a piece of technology, a piece of innovation that reduces that drastically, and now we find ourselves with a glut of these empty.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at anything, it's a gold rush.
Yeah.
Right? Where those things usually end up.
Right.
Right? Don't get caught.
Boom and bust cycles.
Yeah, it's once again, it's not a magic wand. And there's challenges along the way. I think for Earth, Earth is unfortunately a finite resource.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't ignore that. And we need to respect that.
Right.
And the way I think to get where we need to go from that perspective is to figure out something new. Because what we got ain't gonna it's not gonna be able to manage all the demand. What
this is insane. I could talk to you for another 10 hours. I love this stuff. We're getting close to rapid fire questions, but what have we not covered today? Are there any tool sets, or if I haven't really gotten started yet and I'm still paralyzed, I'm fearful, let's say I'm 3 or 5 years into a SaaS company and I'm doing $10 million in ARR and I've got an old tech stack and I know that somebody this weekend could stand up something that looks pretty flashy and sexy and my customers start to migrate away from me. Where would I start? What do I do?
Like you said, I think you've hit it with your customers really well. You need to try to disrupt yourself. But I think also on the CEO, and you know what that means. That means go and try to figure out how we can build this quicker on better and newer tech.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing that's a little bit lost on it is the concept of your SaaS product viable in 2 years?
Yeah, that's great.
Because what's happening right now is it's not even micro-SaaS. It's, Jim in accounting is going to be able to go vibe code this thing in the office that runs on their internal
his
network.
Own direct custom solution.
He's got a Microsoft Power App it. He's going to cursor it. He's going to Lovable. I don't know if you know this, but Lovable just signed a contract with Cognizant for 300,000 licenses. And they're just like, hey, we want you guys to just start using this it's the next PowerPoint Excel, and the other thing is, like your SaaS could be a literal box of a N8N workflow, right? So it's not even thinking about SaaS as in, is my SaaS like, you might disrupt your SaaS, right? Do better. You should have already done that, or you should already be doing that. But it's also like the concept of a branded SaaS software platform, right, in and of itself is something that if I was building today, I'm not sure I would approach it the same way. I might look for a more integrated, agnostic approach, or I might just be like an API first approach where it's like, we have a user interface. You can come click through our dashboard. Of course we have that, but we also have APIs, MCP servers, right? We have workflows that integrate with X, Y, and Z. Like we're a platform that talks to AI. We're not just a platform that talks to humans.
So that's fascinating. So like the old concepts of narrow and deep and ICP, all this stuff, ideal customer profile. So I should be thinking about building a product that is individual user persona specific. So like an example would be, back to your accounting example, is the controller at, I'm just making something up, but the controller at residential HVAC companies that are $20 million or less in revenue.
Sure.
Like that function.
Sure. Yeah. And I think the other thing to think about in this is like, how can you attach services onto what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Y Combinator's telling everyone right now to go after, don't create SaaS products that help accountants. Go after the accounting firm.
Got it.
Like
it's serving them.
Like Tate at Decimal type thing. Like,
yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like
sure.
if go after the entire, go after the entire stack. Don't serve their stack, become their stack. Like go build a better HVAC company that's that's going to deliver the next generation of customer experiences.
That's interesting because at the end of the day, people are humans are humans, people are people. And as we all latch onto this next new shiny object,
which
right?
we're doing.
We're not going to want to let go of our little ball or our little cozy blanket, because now we're going to get comfortable using that new nimble thing that just works awesome for that little thing. And so I'm just going to want to crank on that for a while, for maybe 3 or 5 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's a land grab. So if I approach it from that way that you're talking about, good chance you're going to be embedded for a while.
Yeah. And I think if you're building AI products, don't just go build something that I could probably just do in a ChatGPT conversation.
Right.
I'd be very wary of some of the startups that are just building AI stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like build something.
Is that what we call like wrappers?
Yeah.
Concept?
Or yeah, basically a wrapper that's like, it's just taking the traditional SaaS model and wrapping it around a conversation that anyone can have with an LLM.
Yeah.
So.
Put something inside the wrapper.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. This is awesome. Anything we haven't covered today that you're passionate about?
No, go Hoosiers. Hopefully Coach Sig can take us back to the college football playoffs.
It's going to be amazing if he can. Man, that was last year, right? Indiana versus Notre Dame.
I was there.
Right? In the first game of the playoffs. You were there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, maybe this year they go all the way to the championship. It'd be amazing. Now, I'm a boiler, just FYI.
Are you?
But I do love them.
I'm going to the Ball State Purdue game because my wife went to Ball State and my 2 best friends went to Purdue. Awesome.
I love it. Well, we have arrived at the rapid fire questions.
Oh, we're okay.
Yeah. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I hope so.
1 word, 6 sentences, whatever you want.
Sure.
All in between.
I'm going to try to keep it short.
This is where we're going to change the world right here. All right. What is one thing in your industry that you think people should stop doing?
I think they should stop. If software development professionals should stop hating on AI assisted coding, because I've talked to all the people that are probably better than you at doing it, and they're doing it.
What is one thing that you think leads to the best ability to disrupt yourself or to innovate?
I think you've got to be able to let go of everything and just let it rip. I think you got to be able to risk it all. I think a lot of people hold on to the legacy, when they don't have to.
Get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
And I think it comes down to a company, especially as you scale with employees. I've seen it with software companies recently, where they just don't want to disrupt the machine.
Mm-hmm.
They've got too many employees with too many personalities, too many guys that know where all the bodies are buried. And it's like, you've got to figure that part out.
That's interesting. If you could solve one problem in the world with innovation that would transform human lives, what would it be?
I think it would be to make sure that every single person had really healthy food every single day.
There's a company in Northern Indiana called Frozen Garden. It's one of my favorite new companies. I
Nice.
talk about them all the time.
Did they pitch? I think I might have seen them.
Yeah, she pitched. And she has figured out how to, right at the harvest point, how to figure out how to flash freeze that stuff all the way to your fridge. And it's no preservatives added, no sugar added, no nothing. And she says multiple products. I love the protein bowls and the smoothies. And it's just good, organic, healthy, real food, fuel.
Yeah, I think that it should all. I think that we need to bring back, culinary education into from 1st to 12th grade. I mean,
yes, we could talk about this for another 8 hours. Why cursive writing, home ec, like we should be learning this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really
industrial
important.
arts.
I've been really paranoid with like my sons lately, and my daughter. My daughter's a dog. I'm not worried about her. But like with my sons, they love playing video games. But it's like we've been taking on home projects and just trying to teach them stuff that isn't just type on computer,
right?
Just in case,
Just in case that nuclear fusion goes awry.
Exactly.
I love it. What is one thing that you want to share that you're passionate about that we haven't covered today? Anything at all, non-work related, whatever.
I love sports and advanced analytics. We have a website called craftedmba.com,
yep.
which gets around 75,000 unique monthly visitors, and it's growing quite crazy. And it's my cousin, he was a chef and he started a family and he was working. I don't know if you know chef's hours are not very good.
I can imagine.
And he was working at Taste, which was my first office at 52nd and College, and he was working at Taste. One day he just walked over and he knocks on my door and he goes, "I quit my job." And he was married, and I was like, "Okay, show up tomorrow. We'll figure it out." Taught him how to code over the next 3 years. Huge MBA fan. He's the one that created all this.
That's
He
awesome.
created it on his time at Crafted. Well, since then he's been on podcasts. It's growing. We have crazy SEO on the site. And we launched a membership model. So it's like, it combines our love for the Pacers with like an MBA with
That's
data.
so awesome.
And so, that's been our passion project. And I think we're about to hit a decent MRR number.
That's awesome.
Here, and we're releasing our gambling enablement product in the fall. So we ran a bunch of numbers, and we're able to compete with Vegas lines.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. I didn't really know this, but like if your lines can be like 57% or 58%, that's like exceptional. So that's beyond me. I didn't build that part. But check it out.
Depending on how
Crafted
that
MBA.
goes, that may be a whole other podcast in 6 months or a year.
Yeah. That's the thing that really starts to drive traffic. If you can help with that. Now, I don't actually gamble at all or condone it. I think it's terrible. Don't do it.
I don't gamble.
But for the people that
when I do go to Vegas, my limit's $400.
Yeah.
Right. And if I lose the $400, then I'll buy my own drinks. It's all good.
Yeah, I think it's actually a problem. I was down at an IU. Talk about passion. I was down at an IU football game, and we were walking to the stadium from Knicks. We walked a bunch, and we walked down frat row. I mean, every single conversation of every single young man on the way, all they were talking about was gambling. It was really concerning. So
it's scary, right?
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Yeah, it destroys a lot of lives. You get addicted to that.
Yeah, maybe I should pause that project. No.
Well, Sean, this has been amazing. I've learned a ton just about AI, like just getting after it and getting real and understanding how to attack these things. We're in one of the most terrifying / exciting moments in history when it comes to building a tech or a tech-enabled business.
We definitely are. Just stay positive and keep moving every day.
You said you had a podcast. What is it?
It's called the Big Cheese AI Podcast. It's me, Brandon Corbin, and Jacob Wise.
And the Big Cheese AI Podcast, it's on any podcast platform?
It's on YouTube. It's on Spotify.
And what's your company website?
Craftedup.com.
Craftedup.com.
Yeah, I'm still working on getting that main crafted. That thing's expensive, but we'll get
All
there.
right. Well, to our listeners out there who are interested in being more efficient, more productive, embracing the transition to AI, whether you've already started, need help supplementing your projects, or whether you haven't started and you're terrified and paralyzed and know you need to get started, Sean is the man to contact. And thank you for joining us today.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you to all of our listeners for listening today. And until next time on Innovate or Evaporate.